Welcome back. You're now watching the political segment on The Weekend Show. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has finally announced his nominee to be the next chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. The word independence is the first word when you hear about INEC. Most Nigerians have questioned the selection process of the INEC chairman and how does this affect the results of the elections. In a country where we had the 2023 elections, which was largely contested and in some cases some people called it controversial because of how long drawn out it was in the courts and also with faults from the IREV portal, which INEC had promised would work, especially after being given a huge budget to make this happen. Now, Professor Joash Amupitan, Deputy Vice Chancellor of University of Jos, a legal practitioner and a senior advocate of Nigeria, has been nominated. How much cleaning up does he have to do? How much confidence do the people have in the system? And how does this affect the next couple of elections we will be having in Nigeria? Joining me to have this exclusive conversation, I have in the studio former Youth and Sports Minister, a lawyer, an academic, an activist, and a politician. Former Minister, His Excellency, Solomon Dalung. Welcome back on The Weekend Show, sir.
Thank you very much. And good morning, Nigerians.
Also joining us, we have the National Secretary of the CUPP, Chief Peter Ameh, returning on the show. Welcome back on The Weekend Show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Minister, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts about the nomination of Professor Joash Amupitan as the next INEC chairman?
Professor Josh Amupitan is not a new person to me. He was my teacher in the University of Jos between 1991 to 1999 because I belong to the generation of the unfortunate Nigerians who studied law for 9 years instead of 5. And we had a very fantastic donation of 4 years as a result of ASU strike. And, when I returned back to the faculty again in 2004 as a lecturer, he was my colleague. He was also my head of department, and he later became my dean. So Josh Amupitan is somebody I know closely, and we've been able to maintain a very good relationship with him, even when I left the university. As a person, he's a very fantastic and a wonderful personality. A man who believes in doing things right and getting them right. And I enjoyed working with him. Now that he has been appointed INEC chairman, or nominated INEC chairman, subject to Senate confirmation, I don't envy Professor Josh Amupitan because his appointment is synonymous to inviting an angel from heaven to come and dance in the mud. And thereafter, you are inspecting his cloth to see how clean it will be. And so, he's having ahead of him a Herculean challenge of presiding over an institution that has a battered relationship. INEC has lost its credibility to the extent that in Nigeria and in northern Nigeria, local musicians sing with INEC as an albatross. That's how bad it is with the image of INEC. So, coming in at this time, appointed by the president, 2027 elections ahead, of course, he has the challenges of first navigating the institution of INEC to understand. He has also elections very close at the corner. So what he's going to bring to bear will be a deployment of honest intention, love, and patriotism for the country and democracy. And this will be the only weapon that will designate his legacies in posterity when he will live there. But anything short of what I have mentioned, I do not expect him to perform miracles, because if a winch appoints a priest to preside over Holy Communion, of course, the only thing that should be expected is that the communicants should recite their last wills, because those who will survive it will be few. So this is what I will say so far.
So, Minister, are you saying he who pays the piper dictates the tune, in summary, with your which analogy and communicants?
Yes, George Amopitan has to choose between who Nigerians will remember and his appointment. I always give an example of myself. When I was appointed the Minister of Youth and Sports, I told myself, in my life, I have never held any appointment beyond one term. When I was a chairman of a local government, the day I took oath of office, I told myself, I'm going to be sacked. Because I'm not going to do what will please the person who appointed me, but I'm going to do what is right. And when I was appointed the minister, I convinced myself that I was not going to stay here beyond the time that God would want me to be here. And I don't think I'm coming back here again. And that was why I danced and trampled on very big toes. And as they were crying, I was jumping. So Amopitan has a choice. If he wants to be remembered positively, he must go in there with the mind of even going to be sacked before the end of his tenure. But he's going to leave foundations that Nigerians will always remember him. But if he's going there to look back at how he came to be INEC chairman, then it is not yet Uhuru for Nigerians.
Okay, before I go to Chief Peter Ameh, on the 27th of July, you had said that APC's, in the Guardian Nigeria, that APC's implosion is imminent, and ADC is ready to welcome defectors and take over Nigeria. Do you still believe this?
Yes, what I actually was putting forward to Nigerians is that the way the political landscape is skewed now with the defections going on, because the only thing now that is happening in the politics of Nigeria is defection into a one-party system and endorsement. We have endorsement going on, organizations, women, political parties. Very soon, vigilantes will be making endorsement. We will also have clergies and priests, since there are SUVs now rolling out to the priests and the clergies. They will also start their own gale of endorsement, and we will advance from there. Maybe possibly we'll end up with INEC even endorsing a sole candidate. But what I was putting forward is that 2027 is about we and them. There's going to be only two political positions. The Nigerian people who have been impoverished by harsh economic policies and taxation will be on one side with their sympathizers. Political parties are not going to be the issue in 2027, no. Nigerians will be interested in slugging out with those who have congregated on the other side against them. So whichever vehicle offered the accommodation with the right leadership, that's what Nigerians are going to swing to. But all of us are going to be involved in collection of APC money. In fact, more people are going to defect to APC because there is money there to share. That's where, if you belong, you can be sure of paying your bills. So I want to remind us, Nigerians forget history easily. When Abacha was being endorsed by the political parties, the CNC led by Gamede, was the only party left out. And then later, he now endorsed Abacha. So the journalist asked him, why do you now suddenly, a party that represents the people of Nigeria and their aspiration in opposition, endorsing Abacha? And he said, well, if endorsing Abacha is what will give us justice, we have also decided to join. So many Nigerians are going to join this endorsement. But it's for them to have access to the money that is not used for development, but is being shared. You can see the national chairman now visiting churches and donating 20 million, 30, 50 million to churches. Now, the national chairman of APC was a civil servant, INEC commissioner. And then he contested the governorship of Plateau and lost, was appointed a minister. I don't know whether it has been changed. The salary of a minister in Nigeria is 840,000. That was what I collected for 4 years. So, if somebody with a salary of 840,000, who has been a minister for less than a year or a year plus, and is now donating millions to churches after being appointed acting chairman for 3 months, and people are collecting this money and singing hallelujah and thanking him without questioning the source, it will tell you that the money realized from the withdrawal of fuel subsidy, the money realized from the increase of electricity tariff, the money realized from the floating of the naira, the money realized from the increase of data and bank charges, and the over close to 60 trillion naira loan obtained between 2023 to now is all meant for this type of things. Therefore, 2027 is a watershed in Nigerian history.
With the picture you've painted, it makes me wonder if should people still be bothered about going to vote? Should people, do the votes still count? With the allegations of monies moving around, which can be corroborated with what we can see in the public domain, do you think with ADC or with any party, there can be any change in 2027? Or is this a fight for the future?
No, Nigerians should go out en masse and register and arm themselves with their PVC. But they should not be very rigid in assessing where they are gathering to share their wealth. They should not be rigid about it. They should only be rigid on the day of election.
So they should collect whatever they want, but vote for who their conscience.
Yes, they should make themselves available to all the sharing points. But warn themselves that the only duty they owe this country is that on the day of the election, they will exercise their right in favor of the future. Now, what guarantee do they have? Why must they vote? They must vote in 2027 and come out en masse to police the declaration of their votes. They must not allow people to gather in the collection center. Just after some time, they will go on break. Collection of results does not require going to break. It's not a university. They must ensure that nobody is allowed to leave that place. Because since I joined politics, I've never heard that coalition is suspended. No. Once you start coalition, you finish it. Nigerians must police that. Nigerians, the young people, must now behave like their colleagues, especially in Senegal. Senegal has given us a template. There was nothing President Mal didn't do in Senegal to truncate democracy. He did worse than what is happening in Nigeria now. But the people were determined to get democracy, and they got it. So it is the determination of Nigerians that will determine whether we are going to take a step forward as a country or we will need their presence.
Thank you, Chief Peter Ameh. I saw you nod your head at some point. I saw you shake your head at some point. I'll start with the first question. What do you think about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu appointing or nominating Professor Joash Amopitan as the INEC chairman? And do you think the one person as a leader is capable of restoring the confidence and perception of Nigerians in the commission?
For me, a lot has been said, and Professor George Amopitam is coming with a very impressive credentials. You know, somebody who have practiced law, you know, written books about it, lecture about laws, and you know, I watched some of his video about the power of immunity in our constitution. And for me, I think I want to give him benefit of the doubt. You know, coming from a backdrop of a battered image for the commission, a backdrop against the legitimacy that the commission currently does not enjoy in the eyes of the public. The perception of INEC, when you look at Nigerians and what Nigerians feel today, is that INEC is just even worse than rubber stamp. That INEC is actually there to serve the interest of those who are in power, whether it is APC that takes power or somebody else takes power. Whereas the intention behind INEC formation was for INEC to be insulated from any external, interference. If you look at section 158 of section 1, section to section 2.3, you discover that it was supposed to be insulated, and these provisions continuously was made when you look at the opportunity for INEC to get its money from direct light charge in section 81 of section 3. So if you look at all this combination of what the framers of our constitution did, was to be able to give INEC the opportunity to define a course for our people and organize elections that will not only be transparent, but they can be held accountable for the decisions that they have taken. But what we have seen over the years and in the past period of time is that staff and members of INEC who have been deployed for election, like what happened in Ogun, where the embarrassment was just too much, when the ID card of those who went to conduct election on behalf of INEC was filmed in public and even in Kaduna, and the money they collected was put in outside. And INEC is overburdened in a lot of ways. So I think Josh Amopitan coming with such level of unprecedented legal history, participation in legal education and also, participating in judicial processes, should be able to look at Justice Iwe Electoral Reform Panel of 2008 with the recommendations, because if as far back as 2008, such level of recommendations should be made in order to safeguard, and give INEC the needed independence and the capacity to conduct election. Because you talked in your opening monologue that you talked about the independent attached to the Electoral Commission. That independent is not really there. That's what most Nigerians think, and that's why you feel that the appointing authority should be changed, and that there's a more holistic approach to how the INEC chairman is appointed. The visionaries that were behind the appointment before didn't know that the current stain on our electoral fabric could be this disheartening and disappointing, when they came up with the idea that if you look at section 154, that the Council of State, Council of State consists of people with high moral and history of integrity, history of holding very high position in this country, former head of state, serving governors and a host of others, including Attorney General of the Federation. That could have been enough to be able to sit down, deliberate passionately about the future of our country, and not arrive at a very reasonable course on why a person should be chairman of the commission. So, but that is not holding water right now, because people believe that when despite that safeguard being inserted in our constitution, that those who are appointed feel that their gratitude should go to the appointing authority, and that's what undermines our democracy, because when the influence of those who appoint, even when the Mahmoud was removed, I saw the press statement written by Bayo Ononuga, and it was very embarrassing, because the commission was supposed to self-regulate itself. Because if you look at the Constitution and look at Section 154, Section 1C, when it says that anybody who is appointed will enjoy uninterrupted tenure of 5 years, or especially state executive bodies that you can find on that section 133. And this uninterrupted 5 years is not subject to any interference. But what we saw recently, despite my relationship and my objection to how Mahmoud had managed the commission, what I observed recently, and based on report and actions that have taken place is that Mahmoud was forced out of the commission, and that the statement by Mahmoud after he left office, and that he should hand over to the next most senior person, also undermines the independence of the commission, because the presidency have no such authority to be reaching that, because that installation that he has is supposed to wait until a day before his tenure and then hand over naturally to the second most senior person. But instead of, with all the cries that Nigeria are crying, with all the lack of transparency and accountability for the 2023 election, and the glitches that was not accounted for, nobody, there's what they call digital footprint. If Mahmoud was sincere, or the commission was sincere in trying to cleanse his name, in trying to give Nigeria hope and restore the hope that was lost in the commission, there could have been a non-partisan approach to investigating what happened in the 2023 election as regards to the glitches. And that would have allowed more, that's why you have KPMG and all these other company council, NNPCU, International Accounting Body, to look at what happened so that you'll be able to, people can believe that your auditing is truly a reflection of what it is. So
I have a question about that. So we've seen how the executive has so much control over appointed officials, and we've also seen how the current administration came in, and regardless of the section in the constitution you spoke about, removed a lot of people who were statutorily appointed to fixed terms and put in new people. However, with INEC, because I remember Festus Okoye during the 2023 election repeatedly saying how prepared they were for that election, And when the glitches happened, they said, oh, the words and the INEC guidelines gives them the rights to do what they want. So literally saying we don't owe Nigerians anything. So who now holds INEC accountable?
It was supposed to be the National Assembly. National Assembly has oversight function over this executive body. I've always said that capturing INEC in Section 133 as a state federal executive body is even an aberration to what independence we wanted INEC to be. And then National Assembly is supposed to act that. And in every democracy, the people participation is key, because if you go overseas and find out those who have learned this democracy for, what happens is that in our own client, that when people feel that their only responsibility, and a very few minority, not the majority of the people, the very few that goes to vote, feel that the only thing they need to do is to cast their vote and go back home, and which is not so. You have to engage the process. Even for election, there's a during and post-election phases. Even for governance, in between that time, the governance must go on. So the citizens must participate to engage governance, to demand for writing to be done, and engage these processes. But citizens are disengaged from government. They are disillusioned. And if this dissolution comes from bad leadership, leadership that has beaten the people to stupor, the pocket money is not there. People can't feed. You can't go to hospital today to get scanning from federal medical centers or national hospital anywhere that you are not coughing at 100,000, and the minimum wage is 70,000. So people are frustrated, but their frustration is not. I'm not encouraged by their frustration enough, because they have not been able to determine the outcome of their future. Because election is a very critical process in governance. With that, if we continue to have elections that are undermined, elections that are rigged, elections that are manipulated by the commission, then you're going to have bad governance. Then, because the people who force themselves on you will not be beholden to the people. They feel that in the next tenure they can repeat the same thing. So you need to be able to show that democracy really belongs to the people, and it's the power from the people upon which this constitution was built. Despite it was a military handed over constitution, we will have to just believe in it, because it's the only legal instrument today we are using. And for the commission, the commission also, when it talks about the regulation and guidelines, don't forget that there are several Supreme Court judgments that have said INEC has power to make subsidiary legislation. That, that's why they are making regulation and guidelines for political parties. They make regulations and guidelines for conduct of elections. These regulations are there. I have it in my desk in my office. And every time we come to the middle of election, when you take that regulation and guideline to court, INEC, the court will tell you, oh, it is not in the Electoral Act. But when it favors the other side, the court will tell you that INEC has power to make subsidiary legislation for the conduct of election. So INEC is not just that body like any other body. INEC has some level of, apart from judicial quasi authority, to make certain decisions. So INEC must own up to its responsibility and act in the best interest of our people. But for what I have seen, mostly, is that you can't count, there's a bureaucratic system in INEC, which is about the civil servants that are there. They are different people. They are no longer existing because the political appointees are living so luxurious life, living so comfortable at the HLM highest level, and undermining the bureaucratic services, because at this time, the civil servants can't go to courses abroad, enjoy the benefit of being civil servant. Their promotions don't come as when due. They are not getting their allowances as well. So this also demoralizes those who are working in that commission, because we can't separate those who are the machine of the commission from those who just come temporarily and then disappear. Those who serve 35 years will be there, and their welfare is not taken as a paramount issue. So this, at the backdrop of all this information, I think that the commission must wake up to this responsibility, and that we must look for a way. Because you can't look at the resident electoral commissioners now. Those who perform well will never return. Like Makigini and others, you will come back. As long as you are too strict, they don't trust you. And if you look at the level of those who are in the commission today, they are not speaking out. They can't even talk about the processes. The commission is about chairman and 12 other commissioners. It's not just the chairman alone. They are supposed to sit in a commission meeting, determine what is good for the administration of the election management body, determine what is good for how the subsidiary legislation they are supposed to make in the conduct of our elections. So it is not just, it's the political appointing process that have totally undermined the commission. Because you see governors nominating a national commissioner, electoral commissioner to the president. Oh, this one is good, it's on my state. Governors also have people who see them as their appointers. So it is critically clear that we must look at that Justice Iwe electoral reform panel. But I also disagree in part of the recommendation of the electoral panel that said that we should take power and give it to the NJC to screen those persons who will be eligible to be chairman and commissioners of INEC. Because the NJCs have not been able to discipline hearing judges enough. So they can be in charge of post-election litigations and also be in charge of appointing those who will govern the commission. So what we should do is to look, yes, one day we'll get it right. But you can say that today National Assembly is rubber stamp and they're spineless. There's no doubt. Nigerians are seeing the obvious. There are very few percentage, or maybe 2-3% of them are actually very courageous. But that cannot, those who are not courageous, those who are spineless, have overwhelmed those who have that courage to do that. So we need to look at how the 360 House of Reps, the 109 senators, can sit in the joint sittings and then receive nominations from Nigerians, screen it down to maybe 3, and then go ahead to have a joint sitting on how the INEC chairman and
I want to highlight something you just said about some of the good resident electoral commissioners don't get returned. Well, we've seen the resident electoral commissioner from who now became a minister and is now an acting chairman of the APC. Does this imply that this was some reward system or a barter agreement, or what's in line with what you're saying?
I've been in politics for a while. He's my friend. I respect a lot of his views, and that's why I agreed to come when I heard he was coming, because he's a very straightforward man. So what I'm telling you, you cannot take it away. When the man was resident electoral commissioner, I was speaking to politicians. And when he left, he didn't even go to any party to try. We run a multi-party democracy, for instance. We don't have a one party. Today we have 19 political parties registered, and more is coming. But he went straight to the government, party. So we are not telling you that somebody want to, participate in the democracy and say, oh, Section 40, give me the freedom of association. That freedom of association should not be seen. People should not perceive it that you have undermined your integrity, you have undermined the principles that govern that freedom. So these are clear issues, and you find out that I see some of the resident electoral commissioners, for some of the directors, they come to TV to talk. I don't believe people when they are in office and cannot do what is right for the people, and then post-office period, they start to talk as if they're active. I don't believe those people. So I see some of the resident electoral commissioners, I don't want to mention, I saw them on television talking about how INEC appointment must change. You benefited from the process. You should have spoken up while you are in the commission. So the commission today does not have institutional memory. The commission today cannot have a balanced system, and we must be able to help the commission to insulate it properly from this external interference. It's no longer external interference, it is external aggressors who are bent on anything to cripple the commission from having
Chief, I have one last question for you before I come back to the Minister. You have been at the head of a coalition, the CUPP, and a big problem we have in Nigeria is public perception. Almost no institution is trusted anymore. Now, the same way we've seen in different places, people wait for the highest bidder, the money is being shared, the money is being collected in preparation of 2027. Most people are of the opinion that even with coalitions, they wait till the last minute and then endorse the highest bidder. You have been in this position. Do you think coalitions work, or do they just wait for the highest bidder at the end of the day, just like how we're talking about other institutions as well now?
Coalition itself is not a means to an end. Coalition itself, if not properly situated within candidates that have public appeal, candidates that have public acceptance, that are well spread, it will just be an exercise in futility. We look at the statistics. You look at where this candidate stand a chance. What percentage of vote can it bring? Because you need spread. You need to win two-thirds. You need to win certain level of vote, a majority of vote cast. How do you get a majority of vote cast? How do you get people to, the energy of the Nigerian? Today, the Nigerian population is mostly youth-driven. About 60% of it is youth-energetic population. So the perception of how elections were run in 2003, in 2007, when majority were older people that always talk about structure. Do you have structure? That had collapsed. You can see it obviously in 2023 election when Peter Obi contested under Labour Party. It collapsed because I've been in this system. I've not just been national secretary. I've been national chairman of a political party, a two-time national secretary of IPAC, a two-time national chairman of IPAC. So I've known the system for quite a while, and it's been so difficult to get people to come to the ballot. I ran for president in 2019. You know where I scored 22,000 votes. You can bring people to the ballot, but Nigerians don't really feel, they were really bamboozled by those slang, you don't have structure. So they always gravitate into those who they feel have structure. They don't want to say they don't want to waste your vote. Your vote is not wasted. Wherever you put your vote, it is where your aspiration and interest is covered. So that perception, that design has really undermined our system. So now what people did in 2023 was to say, okay, let's put our vote where we believe it will work. And you look at it, the structures became dismantled. They were gasping for air. You could see parties with governors, parties with House of Rep members. They couldn't run. The Nigerian citizens, the Nigerian electorate demystified all those statements, all those structural statements that was being put in place, and said, no, where are the structures? So every voter must know the strength of his PVC, of his voter's card. And as soon as our voters start to realize that their voter card is ultimate, they will start to now have changes to this government. Because you cannot tell me that vote is not important. And yes, they're loading money in trucks and trying to buy it. So because it's so important, that's why they are trying to buy it. And I would deviate a little bit. I'm pleased with Nigeria. I've been in this struggle for a long time. It's very emotional for me. I don't think you should take money from them. If you're taking money from them, we should to go and take money. We should join them. We should be on your side. So don't take the money. For 4 years you suffered. For 4 years you have not seen anything to eat. They're taking money. They're flying private jet. They're buying Escalade. They're buying yachts. They're building new government houses. Why do you want to now? They've increased your tariff on data. They've increased your tariff for like this Band A. I live in Band A. I can't breathe with Band A. You understand? So it's dangerous. You put 50,272 units, and you are running around with your children off in light everywhere. So what society are we surviving?
I need to bring
so
Minister in for his final comments.
And go and cast vote for a candidate of their choice.
Minister, just as we sum this up, some people have said the president pulled a master stroke, getting someone from Kogi State. Now, for some of us who are from the middle belt of Nigeria, I find it a bit disappointing that only when elections come or power sharing, then the middle belt is seen as not central. And then it's like, we've given this to these people, and so everybody can be fine. Do you think that's a bit of tokenism? And after answering that question, even though for those from the North Central or the Middle Belt, they feel having Professor Josh Amupitan is a benefit to the region. However, some people feel it's tokenism. But for you, just as we wrap up, it's almost 2027. Are you running for any office, and what's your advice to Nigerians as we enter this election season?
We see the peoples of the Middle Belt, historically, even before the advent of slavery, had remained at the receiving end. There's a published statistics by slave civilization indicating that the highest number of slaves taken from Nigeria were from the Middle Belt, because we are smaller nations. And so the bigger kingdoms read our ancestors, take them into slavery. And because we are smaller nations, we produce courageous and great men who were protecting their smaller communities. We were a very small, strong zone, even though divided into smaller communities. And so they found the people with the requisite survival instinct and charisma to take into slavery to the Americas and elsewhere. If it were not Middle Belters that were taken into slavery, majority of them would have died, they would not survive. So we have this survivalist instinct. And this, the Nigerian state, is maximizing it very well. When it is to go and fight the Second World War, they took the highest number of contingent from the Middle Belt. When it is time for the Civil War, they took the highest number of people who went and fought and died from the Middle Belt. And they have continued to recycle this. Ironically, at this stage where we are, they have even brainwashed our young people who don't have the knowledge of this history. And so they are dancing to their tune. The appointment of Joash Amopitan, the appointment of Nentawe, the appointment of George Akume is synonymous to an adage of Tarok people that a bad man is only needed when there is need to do dirty jobs. I have an adage in my place like that. So a bad man is never invited to any meeting, to any celebration. But the day that there is a dirty job to do, is the most qualified person. So President Tinubu, being a Machiavellian theoretician, in 2023 played the MasterCard of Muslim ticket. And he set up the Christian community in the north. So the Christians now saw it as a threat. And some of us were mobilized, we jumped into it. Oh, why would you do this? For me, I joined the campaign against the Muslim ticket because I felt that in a multicultural society, it was an insult on my psychology to say that the whole Christians in the north, none of them is qualified to occupy the office of the vice president. That was my own grouch. So he succeeded with it. After he succeeded, he now attacked the Muslim north that gave him the 5 million votes by embarking on this very nepotistic appointment. And the nepotism here is not even ethnic. It's a class nepotism. He appointed all those he has groomed within the cycle of his political structure, the Lagos boys, into key economic and strategic positions. And then he now knew that, okay, he will need these people of the Middle Belt to do a dirty job for him. So he picked a military position and gave them. And so the Middle Belters felt now that, oh, we are going to be secured because we have the military in our hands. And since that appointment, none of them have slept and closed his eyes. Even day before yesterday, in Plateau, Barakinladi, 5 kilometers away from Barakinladi town, people who went for a security meeting on their way back had the bandits opening fire on them, killing so many. Even commuters who were on the way were also killed.
Christians.
And they have the chief of defense staff who is a minority. Now, this chief of defense staff thing, they have gone around now to say the president loves the minorities, he has appointed a Christian, he has appointed one of you. Now our people now are being who win. So the northern Christians sing the song of Emiloko more than even the Lagos boys who control the economy while they are dying of hunger and this. Now that is the psychology, the average psychology of a Middle Belt. It doesn't have an agenda. So I've asked them, what is our agenda in 2027? If the Muslim North went into 2023 with an agenda. Are we only just being recruited as supporters? So the appointment of Josh and Mupitan is part of this game plan. There are going to be more appointments too of people who will be needed to come and wing the northern Christians, drag them into this particular game so that the president will be re-elected. But the question I have asked my fellow Christians, because I want to join them. I joined them in 2023 because I'm a Christian to campaign. I want now to join them in this because I'm a member of the community. I belong to the Middle Belt community. To join them so that we can sing Tinubu's song. But let them answer this question very well. If I have the answer, I will join. Tinubu, a Muslim, played the card of Muslim ticket with his fellow Muslims in the north and betrayed them. They are still meeting in the mosque today. If we Christians join in 2027 and bring Tinubu and he betrayed us, where are we going to meet him? Anybody who provides the answer to this question is going to have me. I'm not going to contest.
To wrap up, sir, and these are very valid points both of you have raised, but just because of time, I want you to advise Nigerians on the 2027 elections.
Nigerians should participate actively. Right now, go out and obtain, those who have no PVC, obtain their PVC. Participate actively in 2027 to determine their leaders. Go out and vote credible people whom they believe, they trust can move this country forward. If they do that, we, the revolutionary elements, will help them with mobilizing the structure to make sure that their voices determine who become leaders.
Thank you very much. And you, your charge for 2027?
For me, it's about governance should be about enterprise. Those who can be able to manage public resources with frugality, with discipline, with the capacity to be fair to everyone. Because today you've mentioned the advantage that the Lagos boys are enjoying. So I have seen that there must be some level of carrying everyone along, creating balance, and not making other people feel like second fiddle in their own country, like what has happened to the people of the North Central, the Middle Belt. So it is clear that we need somebody that can do that. And for me, everybody knows my stance. I'm not supporting too many candidates. The person I support has always been Peter Obi, and I remain on his side because I know he has the capacity to do what he needs to do.
Thank you very much, Chief Peter Ameh, for always joining us, and I know we'll see you soon. And for Honorable Minister Solomon Dalung, our revolutionary points in this struggle. Thank you, and we hope to see more of you as we lead and handle conversations around the upcoming election. Primaries are early next year, and so it's time for this work to be done and for Nigerians to know that they have a say. It's their voice, it's their choice. That's how much we can take on the political segment. We'll take a quick break. When we return, more on The Weekend Show. Don't go away.